All right.
So from that sporty feel, we get to have a look at what the papers have for us this morning. But remember, we're still using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. At KBC Channel 1 is our official station handle. My handle is at Jain, Wambui, at Doreen, at I am Magitahi, and at Troy Njue. I hope I got that right, Troy.
At Ben Troy Njue.
At Ben Troy Njue. Yeah, I didn't miss the mark. All right, let me start you off with the Daily Nation. Just a quick look for you of how the front page is looking like today. Quite busy, but the main story revolves around the fuel crisis in the country, as well as the promotion of the 6 judges. And that's the story here on the header, which has been captured in great detail going back to when this impasse started 3 years ago, mid-2019, up to yesterday when they finally got to be sworn in. That story goes on to just capture the background once again, and looking at that particular process, that started in mid-2019, where the names of 41 judges were forwarded to former President Uhuru Kenyatta. However, he rejected some 6, citing adverse reports by the spy agency. Dr. Ruto yesterday and his administration stated that they will respect the independence of the judiciary when these particular judges were being sworn in. And he went on to emphasize that his administration will emphasize the rule of law and not of man. He seeks to deal firmly and decisively with impunity, with the rule of law acting as the benchmark. Not the rule of man, but the rule of law. You can go ahead and read more of that story, and I'm sure it has also been captured on the other dailies. But coming to the main read here on the front page of the Daily Nation, pain at the pump. You know, they caption it as a baptism by fire as Ruto faces fuel crisis. And on top of this fuel crisis, other issues that have been highlighted to also be adding onto the pressure on President William Ruto include the unga subsidy, farm inputs, pending bills and taxes. But when it comes to this particular story concerning fuel prices, they have hit a record high. They have hit a record high, with petrol now going for 179 and 30 cents, 179 Kenya shillings and 30 cents per litre, which has gone up by 20 shillings and 18 cents, while we have diesel that is now going for 165 Kenya shillings a litre, and the price has gone up by 25 Kenya shillings, while the cost of kerosene has jumped to 147 Kenya shillings and 94 cents a litre. Yes, and this is of course according to EPRA, but according to also the subsidies that have been applied, partially for that matter, the 2 subsidies have been applied on the diesel and kerosene, where diesel has a partial subsidy of 20 shillings and 82 cents, while kerosene has a partial subsidy of 26 shillings and 25 cents a litre. Now, this is something that has so many Kenyans on social media complaining about, but looking at the flip side, during the president's inauguration speech, the president said that he will do away with the subsidy on fuel and food, arguing rather that they are a huge burden to the exchequer and often lead to product shortage. And in the long run, the main purpose of doing away with these subsidies is to bring down the cost of living for the common mwananchi due to the extra burden being lifted momentarily. However, looking at long-term benefits, this is what he aims at doing. So those are the 2 major stories that have been covered here on the front page of the Daily Nation. Doreen.
Quick look on what the PD is holding for you this Thursday morning, and obviously we start with matters to do with education. Remember, in his inauguration speech, the president alluded to appointment of a task force to review the competency-based curriculum, which was rolled out in 2020. In fact, it was supposed to be rolled out in 2019, but due to push and pull here and there, lack of proper planning, that was pushed to 2020. And so there's been mixed reaction, I shall say, from various stakeholders in respect to this a new education system. But just going by what we have here, one of those one of those key pointers that are coming out is that it's one of our best model yet, but it needs to be knocked into shape on areas like equity, uniformity, and cost. This is what some of those stakeholders are saying. But even as that is happening, most of them are actually saying, and they are speaking on a unanimous front, saying that the need for CBC to be reviewed is actually coming at such a timely moment. So we are waiting to see the task force that will be appointed, as was mentioned by the president, and we also wait to see how this whole process will go. Remember that the whole idea of CBC was equally to just move from that exam orientation, as it were, with the 844 to at least a student-based kind of system or format. Away from that, 6 judges finally take oath of office. This is also part of what was in the list there for the president, that is William Ruto, and this actually happened yesterday after that Gazette notice. And so those 6 judges that were nominated in 2019 following various court orders here and there to appointment, which hit a dead rock, happened yesterday. And so yesterday they equally took that oath of office. Their names together with their profile have been slated in this particular daily. And lastly, battle lines drawn as governors meet to elect new COG leadership, where the battle of the Council of Governors will reach fever pitch today, with the 47 county bosses converging in Mombasa to undergo induction and elect new leaders for 1-year term. Remember that also as of last week, actually it was on Monday, where we established that there are some members of the Kenya Kwanza side who were saying that they were being urged to vote on party lines, but given on what we have so far, they have been voting on the basis of competence. And also what we are waiting to see today, given that that election process is going to be happening, is whether they'll be voting on competence for who will be their leader in the COG position, or will it be on the party lines? And as we said, as the battle moved from Parliament, that is from both the National Assembly and Senate, it has now moved to the Council of Governors. Troy.
Indeed. Thank you, Doreen. And looking at the Standard, is really touching on very crucial issues on the front page. The headline being fuel hits a record high, something that my colleagues have also alluded to. Citizens will have to dig deep in their pockets for the next month after EPRA, that is the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, increased the prices of petroleum products a day after President William Ruto said that the fuel subsidy Kenyans have been enjoying for almost a year now was not sustainable. So what are some of the impacts they are outlining in terms of food, bus fare, manufactured goods, agriculture and food security? And talking of agriculture and food security, there's something else that is right here on the front page, talking about fears of maize flour shortage. Despite the fact that the price is quite not reachable for many Kenyans, that story is continued on page 23, where they talk about that farms owed billions. You do remember there was a maize subsidy that brought the cost of maize flour to about 100. They are saying that they have not been paid that under the state subsidy program. President Ruto said that the subsidy has not delivered the expected outcome. So millers are facing a biting cash crunch and threatens to ground operations over bills that are owed by the government. And still on the front page, they're talking about fight to give men 91 paternity leave days. Wow. This is something that the Employment and Labor Relations Court has declined to dismiss a case in which men sought equal paternity leave days as women. That is 91 days. I support. Moving on, 91 days. I also need to be changing the diapers and helping out. Keen seek help to bring body from Saudi Arabia. And this is something that the new regime and the new parliament, the 13th parliament, have been urged to be looking at, and especially when it comes to legislation, because some of the Kenyans are really suffering when it comes to the jobs, and mostly at the Gulf. Ruto warning short on rule of law as 6 judges sworn in. The president signaled and said that after 3 years of wait, 6 judges rejected were finally sworn in. And Ruto warns that all arms of government must live within the bounds of the legal mandate. That this brought about the issue of the CASs. There was a discussion that in his government, he could do away with the CASs because the court, and saying that he will obey the rule of law, the court declared the CAS's position, that is the Chief Administrative Secretary, as unconstitutional, null and void. Another thing that the head of state was doing yesterday is that he spent his first day in office meeting delegations. You do remember over 20 heads of state and government did attend his inauguration and swearing in. That was the day before yesterday on Tuesday, and they spent the better part of the day yesterday watching that. And very quickly, hopes for thousands as cargo operations return to Mombasa. This is something that has also started to generate a lot of debate. The inland container depot that the head of state said that it is going to be reverted back to the Mombasa port. Of course, giving in one hand, and some people are saying that receiving on the other, because in Naivasha, in Nakuru County, now the port will be taken back to Mombasa, and they have started expressing their reservations, and including when it comes to the infrastructure, the billions that went into making the ICD, that is the Inland Container Depot. But for Mombasa residents, they say that is now business will be good as they wait for the new regime. And finally, anxiety as the nation awaits real Ruto in new look regime. After his inauguration and swearing in, now we are waiting for the cake, the big cake to be cut, and especially when it comes to the cabinet slots, the CS and also the PS. But one thing I can tell you that is going to generate a lot of debate, not only on social media, but in the country, is the fuel prices that have hit a record high. That's all we have for now on the newspapers. We'll be right back.